Haunted Autopsy reveals 5 sinister secrets. Terrifying night shift discoveries exposed. Sarah's heart raced as she drove down Harrow Road, the flickering streetlights casting lunging shadows across the cracked pavement. She swallowed hard, fingers gripping the steering wheel. Every night felt darker than the last, but tonight was different. It chilled her to the core, an uneasy anticipation clinging to her skin. The coroner's office loomed ahead, a stark building against the backdrop of thick woods, its sterile lights flickering like dying stars. As she entered, an odd stillness hung in the air, a tainted tranquility twisted with memories of the dead. Jane Doe awaited her, an unidentified body wrapped in plastic, reminiscent of silence and unspeakable tales. She steeled herself for the autopsy, but faint whispers curled around her thoughts, like ghosts beckoning her to listen. The distant sound of rushing water, ominous and relentless, echoed within her. This was no ordinary night. Uninvited thoughts crept in, a rustle here, a scrape there. Just exhaustion, she told herself. Yet dread cascaded through her. The reports stacked on her desk throbbed with a weight of their own. Missing persons' faces she'd seen in the grocery store. Neighbors she'd smiled at began to flicker in her memory. The reports spoke of symbols, and she shivered. For these symbols resonated ominously in her gut, like a warning bell that echoed louder than the whispers around her. As she dissected Jane Doe, the chilling sensation of being observed clawed at her spine. The tools clattered, her hands trembled. The truth twisted and pulled within her. This woman had a name, a life, a story. But where were the others? They were buried under polite smiles and casual hellos. But beneath the surface, a dark tide swirled. A cold sweat trickled down her back as whispers became clearer, each a note in a symphony of secrets long silenced. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Hours passed like a stream turned to ice. Each name, each face morphed into memories. The walls whispered someone was watching. Just as she thought she'd discovered something, the report detailing Tommy's last school bake sale flicked to her mind, and she realized these weren't just dead, their lives tugged at the strings of her own. As she exited, night pressed against her, thick with malice. Her phone buzzed, and her heart dropped. A voicemail from Tommy, trembling words helping color the darkness. Mom, there's someone in the yard watching. Panic gripped her like a vice. Every shadow loomed larger now. Fingers trembling, she stepped into the chilled night, each click of her heels amplifying the terrified rhythm of her heart. The flickering lights flickered a warning. She sprinted home, breath hitching. What was lurking in the woods behind her? Was it someone familiar or something else entirely? And just then, as she reached her home, her breath caught in her throat. There it was, a figure edging through the trees, eyes glinting in the dim light. She froze. Who was it? Friend or fiend? The mirage of trust dissolved into terrifying uncertainty, and she gripped her keys, a talisman against the darkness that continued to close in behind her. As she teetered at her threshold, a new fear slithered through her, leaving only one unsettling question in her mind. What horrors lay ahead in Maplewood? Sarah's breath hitched as she squinted into the shadows. The figure moved slightly, a rustle of leaves giving it life. She steadied herself against the door, each heartbeat echoing in her ears like a drum. Tommy? She called, voice shaking. Silence swallowed her words. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it stepped forward, slowly revealing a face she knew but couldn't place. Suddenly, Toby's funeral flashed in her mind, the grieving widow with hollow eyes. No, it wasn't her. This woman wore a mask of wood and decay, branches clinging to her hair as if she were part of the forest itself. The figure's eyes shone eerily in the dark, a cold reflection of the moonlight. Help, the voice croaked, a rasp that twisted her insides. They're all watching before Sarah could gather her thoughts. The woman lunged at her, fingers splayed like claws. A primal instinct surged through Sarah, and she slammed the door shut, locking it just as the figure thudded against the wooden surface. The sound reverberated in her chest, laden with dread. "Who's watching?" Sarah's words slipped out in a breathless whisper, pressing her ear against the door. A growl, low and hungry, rumbled from outside, echoing ominously in the night. "Only the ones you've forgotten," the voice carried through the door, chilling her to the bone. Each syllable dripped with malice as the woman's fingers clawed at the wood. The frantic scrapes felt like nails on a chalkboard, tearing at her nerves. Panic surged, and Sarah stumbled back into the house, each step feeling as if she were sinking into quicksand. The living room, once a haven, felt like a trap, a maze of clutter and shadow. Her phone buzzed on the table, a jarring reminder of reality. She fumbled to unlock it, heart racing, scanning for Tommy, praying he was safe. Another buzz, a message. "Mom, please come home. I'm scared." With her heart hammering, Sarah dashed to the window, peering through the slats of the blinds. The yard appeared empty, save for the flickering reflections dancing in the darkness. Where was Tommy? How could she keep him safe? "Tommy!" she screamed, adrenaline propelling her toward the door. She couldn't wait. Whatever was out there, it might already have taken him. Ranging against her fear, Sarah threw open the door. The air was thick now, each breath a struggle against the weight of impending doom. There was nothing, just silence. The trembling light danced around her, lengthening shadows that lurked with malicious intent. Every creak of the porch echoed ominously as she stepped outside. Tommy. Then she saw it. A glint of metal in the underbrush, his toy, the one he never left behind. The innocence of it sliced through her, making her stomach churn. She lunged for it, heart pounding, fingers trembling as she reached down, the cold metal sending a shock through her hand. "Mom?" came an echo from behind the house. Relief washed over her, but mingled quickly with terror as the woods began to stir. "No," she thought, more whispers slithering through her mind. "Run, Tommy." But the sound of the growl returned, a deep rumble from the shadows, strong and angry. It echoed her heart. She could feel it watching, waiting, ready. Then she heard it, a sudden shatter of glass from behind her. Her composure cracked. Had something come in? She couldn't let the darkness take her son. Before she could react, the growl morphed into laughter, high-pitched and haunting, a sound that came both from the woods and inside her own head. What horrors lay ahead in Maplewood? The whisper clawed at her, revealing the truth to a question not even she could articulate. And in that moment, she realized she might have awakened something terrible. The air thickened around Sarah as she spun, heart racing with a frantic pulse. The laughter recoiled into the forest, mingling seamlessly with the rustling leaves. She could feel the shadows stretching, an eerie sentience surrounding her. "Tommy!" she bellowed again, panic bubbling in her throat. She could hear the rustle of the bushes, the faintest whisper of a figure moving, stalking. Each second felt stretched, heavy with dread, as if the night itself was conspiring against her. With trembling hands, she clutched his toy closer. It felt wrong, this once cheerful artifact now turned ominous with his absence. What kind of nightmare had turned her world into a horror show? Another crash, this time closer. Fragments of glass crunched beneath her feet as she backed away from the chilling sound. Her eyes darted toward the house, where the light flickered as if it were a beacon in the dark. Felt wrong to go back, but she had no choice. "Stay back," she shouted into the looming shadows. The growl returned, deeper now, vibrating through her bones. It wasn't just a beast. It felt like the embodiment of her fears, waiting to pounce. "Mom!" The voice was softer now, scared. It pulled her toward the house again, urging her forward despite the terror clawing at her insides. "Tommy, I'm coming." She sprinted toward the door, the wood creaking under her weight. As she thrust herself inside, she slammed it shut, locking it. The echoes of the outside world faded, but the unease lingered, thick like a fog. "Mom!" His voice almost broke her heart. Distant and muffled, it came from the back of the house. She hesitated. Should she check the windows? Was there a way to reach him safely? Each second stretched, the walls closing in around her. Please, Tommy. Her mouth dried, and she pressed her ear against the wall, listening for any signs of him, for any signs of safety. But it was only the low growl crawling closer, as if it were testing her resolve. Then she heard it, a low whisper, soft and chilling, slithering through the silence. She abandoned you, just like the others. Sarah's blood ran cold. Who were the others? Who are you? She shouted, but her voice was swallowed up by the darkness, echoing back as a taunt. The laughter returned, this time mocking and cruel. The sound infiltrated her mind, images of Tommy's frightened face flashing across her thoughts. Her gut tightened. They're coming for him. The voice seethed, laced with venom. No, she screamed, rallying against the suffocating dread. She darted toward the hallway, desperation fueling her movements. Shadows seemed to leap and dance along the walls, revealing glimpses of faces twisted with malice, lost souls reaching out for her. Leave him alone. He is innocent. But her pleas fell into the abyss, lost among whispers that began to swell into a chorus. You didn't protect him, you left him. As she raced toward the back room, she felt the thud of footsteps behind her, fast and heavy, closing in. Goosebumps erupted across her skin as fear coursed through her veins. What had she awoken? Suddenly, the door to the back room creaked open, revealing the darkness inside. Mom? Tommy. But as she threw herself into the room, the screams began to rise outside, horrifying, piercing shrieks that echoed throughout the house. And then, just as suddenly, silence. A silence so heavy it felt like suffocation. Standing frozen in the doorway, heart in her throat, Sarah whispered, "What happened?" With sheer terror, she realized the truth was only beginning to unfold. Maybe it's time to remember. The whisper returned, chilling her to the bone. What horrors was she about to discover in Maplewood? The darkness seemed to pulsate around Sarah, thickening with tension. She could feel it wrap around her like a vice, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The house, once a haven, stood as a decaying fortress against the horrors just outside her door. Tommy! She cried out again, forcing her feet to move deeper into the room. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears, drowning out all else. A single lamp flickered weakly on the desk, casting ghostly shadows that danced menacingly across the walls. Mom! The voice trembled, echoing faintly from behind the cluttered shelves. Each syllable sent icy fingers crawling down her spine. She rushed forward, her hands grazing against the cold, jagged edges of broken toys and scattered papers, reminders of happier days. "Where are you?" she called, desperation rising. Behind her, the door creaked, a slow, grating sound that scraped against her nerves. A gust of wind crept through the crack, chilling her to the bone. Is someone there? She spun around, dread tangling with hope. That an empty hallway yawned before her, shadows dancing as if they were alive, mocking her. The laughter lingered somewhere near, turning her insides to ice. Get away, get away. The voice returned, sharp and layered. You can't run from the truth. It's already found you. Her breath quickened as she rushed toward the back of the house. Hold on, Tommy. I'm coming. But the air thickened, wrapping around her throat, making her half sob with fear. Then she heard it, a sound that turned her blood to ice. A soft whimper from the room down the hall. Was that him? Panic surged through her as she pushed past the doorframe, the hinges screaming in protest. This time, the chill of the space greeted her like the clutches of a ghostly hand. Tommy? No answer. Just the oppressive silence that enveloped her. She stepped inside, heart thundering uncontrollably, the shadows shifting almost eagerly at her arrival. Then she spotted it. A figure, barely discernible, hunched in the corner. Mom! The voice was barely a whisper, but it cracked like glass. Tommy! She lunged toward him, relief flooding her senses before horror took its place. The boy she found was not right. He wasn't just scared. His eyes glimmered with something far more sinister, darkness swirling within, echoing the malevolence that surrounded them. "Mom, help me," but something sinister twisted the innocence of his plea. The shadows flared up, seeping into the very air, wrapping around her like vines. "Yes, not your boy. You lost him." The laughter rang out again, cruel and mocking. "No, you're wrong," she screamed, backing away, gaze fixed on the boy who, for all his familiarity, felt disturbingly foreign. "But you left me just like before." His innocent face morphed into a void, eyes hollow, a specter woven from her worst nightmares. "You didn't save them. You could have saved me." The room began to spin as the reality around her twisted and warped. Memories surged, fragments of laughter, warmth, joy, all shattering into shards of ice. She clutched her head, trying to ward off the memories that rose like the tide, threatening to drown her. No stop, but the whisper only grew louder, wrapping around her like a noose. "All of them here waiting for you." Sarah turned, exhaustion creeping into her bones, yet adrenaline propelled her forward. The wolf outside howled, clawing against the door, eager to enter. What had she opened? What had she unleashed? "Get away," she screamed, slamming the door shut. But it was never meant to be closed. The shadows poured in, relentless, consuming. She felt their icy fingers against her skin, pulling her back toward the depths of the darkness, whispering secrets she was too terrified to hear. "I have to," but the words vanished, swallowed by the oppressive silence. The darkness thickened, and the door shuddered under the weight of something monstrous. What was happening? And just like that, a bone-chilling realization sank in. Maybe it wasn't just Tommy they were after. An inhuman growl sliced through the silence behind her, promising that the night was far from over. "Did you think you could just hide?" The voice was low, dripping with malice. Roots of fear dug deeper into her heart as terror froze her limbs. What awaited her in the shadows? The shadows hissed as they lunged, filling the room like a thick fog. Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her ribs, desperate to escape the encroaching darkness. She staggered back, eyes wide as the beastly growl echoed, chilling her to her core. It felt like a warning, a proclamation of her impending doom. "Tommy!" she screamed, clenching her fists, but the name fell like a whisper in the vast emptiness. The air hung heavy with an acrid smell, like burnt metal mingling with damp earth. A sense of impending doom clawed at her throat. "Do you think you can save him?" The voice slithered through the shadows, wrapping around her mind. It spoke with a cold familiarity, but she couldn't place it. Each syllable scraped against her sanity, peeling back her defenses. "Stay back," she shouted, fear igniting a flame of anger. The shadows pulsed, as if to tease her, rhythmically drawing closer, hungry for her despair. Ahead, Tommy stood frozen, though something flickered behind his tarnished blue eyes. "You didn't save them. You could have stopped this." His voice, no longer just a child, held a dissonance, a twisted echo of something Sarah couldn't bear to remember. "No." She stepped forward, determination forced through her veins. "No, you are my son." The heat of desperation warmed her heart even as the shadows crept nearer. They seemed to crawl like dark tendrils, reaching out to reclaim the innocence she had lost. Suddenly, a single sharp cry surged through the air, cascading like glass shattering against the floor. "Sarah." Another voice, different but achingly familiar. "Dad?" She inhaled sharply. The shadows brushed past her, revealing another figure amidst the chaos. The shape of her father emerged, wounded and ghostly. His frail silhouette hovered close to where Tommy stood. "Help us, Sarah." He extended a trembling hand, reaching out from the void, but despair lurked behind his gaze. "You have to wake up before it's too late." "Wake up?" The words twisted her stomach. The horrifying realization dawned, sharp like broken glass. I'm dreaming?" "No." The echo deepened, reverberating off the walls. "You never woke, Sarah. This is the prison of your regrets." A cold shudder ripped through her. All the losses, the pain, the choices she had buried beneath the surface, they were here, manifesting as specters, demanding acknowledgement. and in their eyes, she saw the truth. Her breath faltered. "What do you want from me?" The shadows around her hissed again, swirling in chaotic patterns, whispering words she couldn't comprehend. "You were born from darkness. You belong with us," they sang, their voices melding into a haunting symphony as her father's face twisted with anguish. She felt something shift in the shadows behind him. The entity that loomed emerged from the darkness grinning, surrounded by a mass of slithering blackness. Its features were warped, shifting like smoke, becoming formless yet filled with lethal intent. "Are you ready to join them?" It growled, voices of the damned clinging to its presence like a shroud. It lunged towards her, massive claws extending, hungry for the fear that radiated from her soul. "No!" She recoiled, terror paralyzing her once more. She couldn't let them take her. She stood firm, a defiant ember amidst the overwhelming darkness. "I will fight for him." The shadows recoiled as if scalded. Yet even the thought of resistance felt feeble against such relentless malice. Perhaps fighting would only awaken more horrors. Wouldn't the shadows feast on that too? Without waiting for an answer, Sarah rushed toward Tommy. "Don't listen," she shouted, chasing the whispers in her mind. "I won't lose you again." As she closed the distance, the air grew heavy with despair, threatening to crush her spirit. But she felt the pull of her love for him, a lifeline amid the consuming dark. "Hold on to me," she screamed, reaching out as she plunged into the depths of shadow and memory. Then, everything went black, the last echo fading into silence. Had she really fought back, or had she only deepened her fall? The darkness pulled tight, a final breath before the plunge. But the fear lingered, something still prowling in the depths. What other secrets would the void reveal about her fractured past? Was there a way to escape what she had created? Tick-tock, time was running out, and she was about to find out. A suffocating blackness enveloped Sarah, squeezing the air from her lungs. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears as she fought the paradox of consciousness lost in the darkness, yet still aware. The weight of all she had lost clung to her like chains, dragging her down into despair. "Tommy," she whispered into the void. No answer, just emptiness, chilling and oppressive, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Desperately, she groped in the darkness, fingers brushing against something cold and unyielding. Fear shot through her. "Is anyone there?" A soft, distant wail answered, an unsettling sound that twisted her stomach. Shadows shifted, and the air crackled with anticipation. Sarah felt an invisible force pulling her deeper into the dark, into a realm where nightmares took form, thriving on fear. Suddenly, the dark parted, revealing a scene she both craved and dreaded. Memories flickered like old film reels against the walls of her mind, images of laughter, childhood adventures, and warmth. But those memories quickly distorted, morphing into twisted echoes of regret and anguish. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," the cheerful voice rang out, but then it cracked, the edges fraying into something malevolent. "You should have chosen differently." It wasn't just her past. It was a taunt, a mockery of her every decision. "No." She pressed her hands to her ears, a futile gesture against the cacophony of lost moments. The shadows swirled, whispering secrets, tragedies untold. "Stop. I don't want to hear this." The darkness pulled tighter, threatening to suffocate her. But just as the weight became unbearable, a glimmer broke through, piercing the black with light. As if stepping from a dream, the figure of her father materialized again, illuminated by a pale shimmer. Sarah, his voice trembled, full of warmth and love, but behind it lurked despair, shadows gathering at his feet. "You have to break free. They're coming for you." "Break free from what?" she cried out, confused and terrified. I can't do this alone." "You're never alone," he urged, extending a hand, but the shadows clawed at him, pulling him backward. She strained to reach him, heart racing. "You must remember. Face the truth." "About what?" The desperation dug deep, twisting her insides. "I can't remember." The lights flickered out, plunging her into darkness once more. the shadows closing in. They hissed and coiled around her, each brush a reminder, a chilling caress. You wanted to forget, to hide. They coiled, laughter echoing in her ears. But we never left. The darkness thickened, creeping into her bones. She gasped, the cold invading her spirit. No. She shook her head violently, fighting against the fog, against the memories that felt like knives. You won, take me. Yet as she defied them, the shadows began to morph, their forms solidifying into faces from her past, souls she had abandoned, choices she had buried. They emerged in agony, veils of sorrow surrounding them, and for a moment, she saw their eyes glinting with betrayal. Turn away, and they will suffer, a voice whispered, striking a chord within her. No salvation for the damned. Please. Tears streamed down her face. I couldn't save all of you. I couldn't save myself. The shadows pounced, advancing like a tidal wave of nightmares. She stumbled backward, slipping into the torrent, her heart pounding against her chest as the figures reached out to her in anguish. Face us, they screamed, their voices a chilling chorus of torment. Face your own darkness. A terrible realization settled in her mind. She was amidst the remnants of choices that haunted her, fragments of lives undone. She could hide no longer. With every ounce of courage, Sarah stood tall despite the dread, inhaling the acrid air thick with sorrow. I will face it. I'll confront you, she shouted, her voice a beacon against the void. I will find him. I will bring back Tommy. The shadows wavered, hesitating at her defiance. Would she dare to challenge them, to untangle her soul from their grasp? Then, just as the ground shifted beneath her feet, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the darkness. Oh, you think you can save him? As the malevolent laughter cut through her confidence, the shadows thickened into a storm, swirling with renewed rage. Tommy, she cried defiantly, ready to confront this nightmare. But where would her determination lead her? The ground trembled as she felt a presence creeping closer, dragging her toward an unseen fate. Would facing her past be enough to save the future? As panic flashed in her mind, the darkness whispered promises of long-buried truths. But she was running out of time, and she could feel the walls closing in around her. What would she uncover in this abyss? And more hauntingly, would it be enough? The shadows surged, enveloping Sarah as she braced herself. Fear skittered along her spine, a reminder of what was at stake. Each look back at the faces of those she had failed burned like a brand. She could feel them clawing at her heart, demanding recognition, demanding justice. Face us, they wailed louder this time, a chorus reverberating through the void. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, the cacophony filling her with dread. She didn't want to see them, didn't want to feel the guilt clawing its way back up her throat. But there was no escape. Not now. Why are you doing this? She shouted, the words tearing from her mouth, raw with desperation. Because, the shadows hissed, you let us down. Their voices twisted, a mixture of sorrow and rage, resonating around her. The darkness grew thicker, pulsing like a living thing, squeezing tighter, as if feeding on her despair. Then came a whisper, soft and chilling. You thought forgetting was the answer? It brought you here, didn't it? To face what you buried. A dread settled in her chest. She couldn't tell if it was from the weight of the apparitions or the invasive truth settling into her bones. Just then, she felt the coldness creep up her arms. An icy hand clutched her wrist, dragging her closer to the ground where memories lay like buried corpses. Stop! She shrieked, her brakes reverberating off unseen walls. I'll remember. Just let me go. The world shifted again, and she found herself standing in her childhood home. Sunlight spilled through the windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. A bittersweet nostalgia washed over her, but the moment was fleeting. She could sense something wasn't right. The laughter of children echoed, but it twisted into horrid cries. It was an illusion, a mirage designed to lure her in. The familiar scent of cookies baking turned rancid in an instant. Tommy? She cried, spinning around. But the room was empty. adorned only with faded memories. There he was, just out of reach, an image of her little brother running down the hall. But with every pursuit, he slipped further away. "Come back!" she screamed, her heart racing, pulse pounding against her chest. "Where are you? Tommy, please." The desperation in her voice cracked open the eerie stillness, but only the shadows responded. They enveloped the hallways, reaching out, threatening to pull her under. "Do you think you can outrun the past?" A voice crept through the silence again, chilling her spine. "He needs you, but you turned your back. Shut up," she yelled, pressing her hands to her ears. "You don't understand." "Then show us," they demanded. A torrent of memories flooded her mind: plastic toys, forests of laughter. The day she had chosen to hang out with friends instead of watching over him. The car crash echoed through her thoughts, dragging her down into despair. She felt it all again, the guilt suffocating her. "Tommy!" she screamed again, determination igniting as memories burned brighter. "I won't let you go. I am coming." The world warped, the walls shaking as the past collided with the present. A door splintered open in front of her, an invitation to the heart of darkness. It pulsated with a putrid energy, enticing yet horrifying. She hesitated, heart in her throat. Could she really face whatever waited inside? The shadows grew impatient, closing in. "Step through, Sarah. Find out what really happened." With breath held tight, she took a step forward. Every inch felt like a surrender, the impending choice nagging at her sanity. Then the voice of her father echoed once more from somewhere deep within. "You must face it, Sarah. Only then will you be free." As she crossed the threshold, the walls of reality crumbled around her, plunging her into another abyss, deeper than the last. What awaited her now? Was this truth she sought, or just another layer of deception cloaked in shadows? Would she find Tommy, or would she lose herself entirely? Plunged into darkness, Sarah felt the air thicken around her. It wasn't just a void. It was alive, breathing, whispering her name with sinister intent. The echoes of the past roared like a vicious wind, swirling memories haunting her every thread of thought. She stood on the precipice, wavering between fear and sorrow. Light flickered ahead, a narrow beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. Every instinct warned her to turn back, to flee from the shadows clawing at her sanity. But something within her urged forward. She had to know. Her heart thundered with each hesitant step, an unintelligible symphony of dread rising in her throat. "Tommy?" she called, her voice trembling, ricocheting off walls that didn't exist. "I'm coming for you." Just then, the light expanded, revealing a room teeming with images warped in shadow. Scenes from her childhood played out, not joyful, but twisted. She saw herself, a little girl, watching her brother at the park, a smile stretching across his innocent face. But the next moment froze her heart. Laughter turned into screams. A vision of young Tommy skidded to a halt, mouth wide, eyes glistening with terror as a speeding car approached. "No!" Sarah screamed, hands flying up to shield herself from the sight. "I tried to protect you. Stop lying." The shadows hissed, a sinister chorus weaving through the air. "You were not there." Your laughter drowned out his cries. Each breath felt like shards of glass, her throat tightening with despair. She pressed on, forcing herself through the vivid web of memories. The scenes became a blur, a smog of guilt and remorse strangling her heart. Littered with what-ifs and regrets, every memory dragged her deeper into the abyss. Suddenly, she was transported again, now standing in a sterile, fluorescent-lit corridor. The sharp scent of antiseptic filled her nostrils, a stark contrast to the pleasant memories she fought to hold on to. "Where am I?" Panic surged as she fought to comprehend her surroundings. A door loomed nearby, slightly ajar, groaning on its hinges. Through the crack, faint murmurs spilled out, haunting whispers of pain, betrayal, memories screaming to be set free. "Tommy," she called, her voice barely more than a breath. "Help me," came a faint, broken reply from beyond the door. The room shuddered. Shadows flickered and scratched at her, like fingers clawing toward freedom. Her heart raced double time, desperation amplifying her instincts. She pushed the door open wider, the creak slicing through the tension-filled air. What she found made her scream. A table lay in the center, blood-stained and cruelly illuminated. Ghostly figures loomed around it, trapped souls bound to their agony. Tommy was there, or what remained of him, faceless and grotesque, pleading with wide, dark eyes. "Sarah." His voice shattered her heart, soaked in terror. "You have to save us." Tears burned down her cheeks as realization gripped her. It wasn't just Tommy. This eerie autopsy was of all the lives she had neglected. Each loss crystallized in the shadows, held hostage by her silence. The figures lunged, begging for release. "No, this wasn't my fault," she screamed, staggering back, but the walls encroached, suffocating her with memories of neglect. "You buried us," they screeched in unison, merging into a cacophony that echoed in her mind. "You abandoned us." Suddenly, everything went dark again. The room fell silent. But then, a whisper cut through the void, a familiar voice. "Sarah, Dad?" She breathed, hope piercing through her despair. "What are you doing here?" "Find the truth, Sarah. You've always known." But the shadows crept back, restless and relentless. New memories bubbled to the surface, flashes of the past that might reveal the secret she had long buried. Choices that defined her, terror that wrapped every decision in chains. Standing there, trembling, Sarah realized she might have the power to quiet the cries, but at what cost? In that instant, the ground opened beneath her. As she fell, she wondered if she could face the truth in time. Would she rise again, or would she be consumed by darkness forever? The very nature of her choices awaited her in the chasm below. The shadows pulsated, beckoning her closer. What happened that fateful day? And would she ever escape the truth lurking in the shadows? Sarah tumbled down, the air rushing past her like a torrent of nightmares. Darkness swallowed her whole, a palpable entity clawing at her as she fell deeper into a void where time didn't exist. The screams of the lost echoed around her, their anguish wrapping tighter like a serpent ready to constrict. As she landed with a thud, a brittle crack reverberated through the nothingness. Gasping for air, she pushed herself up. There was a flicker of light again, a soft glow battling the shadows like a candle in a storm. Caution coursed through her. The whispers grew louder, demanding her attention. "Tommy, Sarah, come closer." A voice called, barely a breath above the murmurs. Squinting against the haze, she saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a shape she recognized, yet something about it contorted her gut in gnawing worry. "Is it really you?" she stuttered, her voice trembling. The figure stepped into the light, his face lined with terror, eyes wide, yet hollow. "You must remember," he said, his voice heavied by despair. "Before it's too late, we're all waiting." "Waiting for what?" she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. "The truth, Sarah. You have to accept it. You can't run anymore." The shadows shifted around him, swirling like smoke around a dying flame. Sarah's heart raced. She began to realize the intensifying pressure wasn't just fear. It was the weight of her own choices pressing down. "No," she gasped, stepping back. "What truth?" "I've lost everything. Everything you avoided." "Sarah," he pleaded, his face swimming in shadow. "You can't keep it buried. We'll be lost forever." Frantically, she glanced at the walls, feeling them close in. Memories flickered behind her eyelids, fragments of faces, overlapping voices. All those moments she had let slip away. The brother who trusted her, the father who had tried to guide her, all were absorbing into the darkness. "No," she cried out, flinging her arms wide, desperate to keep the memories at bay. But the shadows were relentless, a maelstrom of regrets wrapping around her limbs. "Choose," Tommy shouted, his voice echoing louder. "Release us or let us fade." With a swift motion, she lifted her hands, summoning the light, the last tool left to her. The glow flared, pushing back against the dark. She felt the warmth seeping through her fingers, illuminating the corners of her tortured conscience. And then she saw it, a fleeting glimpse of the truth. The day of the accident. Tommy! She screamed as pain split through her, an unbearable weight lifting just a fraction. I can't, you have to. What did you see that day? Remember? The light flickered, revealing a bright playground bathed in day, laughter filling her ears. She watched in horror as young Tommy ran, oblivious, towards the street. She'd seen the car, heard her own scream take shape, but she had hesitated, frozen in fear. Now, Tommy's voice broke through, charging her with urgency. Dread pooled in her stomach. The shadows recoiled at the realization, their grasp weakening as she faced the truth. I was selfish, she gasped. I ran away from my responsibility. As she surrendered to the memory, the darkness shrieked, a cacophony of anguish enveloping her. But she pressed on, deeper into the abyss of her own making. I'm here now, Tommy. I'm so sorry. The shadows writhed, unraveling, locking in on her repentance. A powerful surge echoed through her, a connection igniting. But just as the light began enveloping her brother's form, a new darkness slithered in, wrapping around her legs like a serpent. Sarah, no! The ghostly Tommy shouted, eyes wide with panic. And then she felt the chilling grasp of the shadows tighten, threatening to pull her under into the depths where she feared she would find her own shattered soul next. Wake up, he cried, desperation heightening. We haven tea time, but those words faded as the light threatened to extinguish. Was she truly ready to face the horror she had long evaded? Or would the shadows drag her down forever? As the darkness spread, consuming her hope, one last thought lingered in her mind. What terrifying revelation awaited her when the truth surged to the surface? The air crackled with tension as Sarah braced against the wall, realization ripping through her like lightning. The shadows pulsed, wrestling with the warmth of her newfound conviction, waiting to see what she would do next. Deep inside, she knew she had to summon every ounce of courage. I'm not running anymore, she declared, voice steady amid the swirling chaos. The world began to shift, morphing back into the memories she had sabotaged. She saw herself at the park again, innocent laughter echoing as she chased Tommy, her laughter mingling with his. They were indistinguishable, two souls entwined in joy, but a shadow hovered at the edge of that day, threatening to overtake them. Remember the screams? The shadows hissed, flickering at the corners of her vision. No, she shouted stubbornly, shaking her head to drown them out. I choose to remember joy. She focused, conjuring that warm light once more, igniting it with her love for her brother. With every heartfelt thought, that light grew brighter, thicker, pushing back the slithering tendrils of darkness. Tommy! The name tore its way from her throat, echoing through the void as if to beckon him back. I will not forget you. I will fight for you. The scenery began to split, revealing the pivotal moment, the terrifying truth of that day. A vehicle blazed down the street, and there he was, young Tommy, lunging forward. When her scream echoed in that moment of hesitation, the flaring pride of youth tangled with foolish naivety. The darkness roared, a hideous cacophony of desperation, trying to snuff out her resolve. But Sarah felt flames ignite within her. I wasn't there when it mattered. I can't change the past, she yelled into the churning shadows. But I can honor it. I won't turn away from my pain. I carry it as a part of me now. The shadows writhed, hesitating in the face of her defiance. As she stepped deeper into the crossroads of memory and regret, her father's form flickered before her once more, a silhouette bobbing closer to the light than the darkness. Sarah, you must forgive yourself. Only then can you take back what you lost, he urged, voice trembling but firm, weighed down with love. Forgive myself. The words collided within her, scraping against her heart. How? By embracing the truth, he implored, his translucent fingers reaching out toward the ethereal light. You must see it all. You must see him. By confronting our pain, can you finally let go of yours? Together we can emerge. Tommy's voice chimed in, pulling her like a lifeline. Her heart crackled again, and she clutched the light with every ounce of her being. I'm ready, she shouted, as she charged into the swirling darkness, oxygen burning in her lungs. every step a scream of defiance against the layers of sorrow. She lunged towards the moment of the accident, and suddenly, time stood still. Everything blended into a whirl of confusion. She was in the playground again. But this time she saw it all. The joyous laughter, the car streaking toward them, her moment of fear and paralysis. I couldn't stop it. Tears streamed down her face as despair clawed at her throat. I couldn't protect you. As she realized her pivotal moment of inaction, she slumped to the ground within the memory, choking on remorse. I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm so sorry. In the span of eternity, everything flicked to black, then surged back to life. Colors whirled. Shadows retracted, revealing Tommy's tear-drenched face. Mom! His eyes bore deep wells of hurt, but also hope. Help us. I will, she cried, looking straight into the very soul of her brother. I will fight for you, for the others. I can't change the past, but I will no longer let it rule me. Just like that, she pulled the full power of her love, merging it with the light overwhelming the shadows. It twisted through her very essence, binding her to him, bursting from her soul like a supernova. There will always be a place for both joy and sorrow in my heart, Sarah cried, as the obsidian veil began to dissolve. Together, we'll find our peace. Suddenly, the shadows started to shriek, recoiling as the light enveloped them. With a furious energy, she swept outward, a golden tide crashing against the darkness. The voices of the lost began to merge, echoing around her, disentangled souls finally finding a release. A chorus of gratitude fluttered past her ears, and then, she was pulled into the warmth of embrace, held tightly in a circle of familiar faces, love wrapping around her like a blanket. Thank you, breathed Tommy's voice, echoing in the sunlight of new beginnings. No, thank you, she replied, heart swelling as they began to dissolve together, strands tightening until she felt whole again. In that moment, she freed not just her brother, but also the remnants of every life she thought she had failed. Clarity emerged from the shadows of her past, illuminating a path forward, all intertwined in love, unyielding and true. Sarah awoke with a gasp, light filtering through the window, a gentle breeze rustling across her cheeks. She felt different, free. A burden had lifted, shadows disbanding as rays of sunlight poured through, and for the first time in years, she felt hope. She raced towards the window, heart pounding with life. Tommy, she called, breathless yet certain. In that moment, she made a vow not just to herself, but to the memory of every soul she had lost. She would honor their lives, and the lessons they taught her would transcend the pain. Stepping outside, she took a deep breath, ready as the sun spilled warmth across the world. The day felt alive with possibility. She would tell Tommy the story, find joy again in the simplest moments, live fully so no shadow would ever silence her. And with conviction, she spoke to the universe, from now on, I will remember. But the choices didn't just belong to her anymore. They were intertwined with her love eternal. This was her rebirth, and she would never shy away again. Remember to take your own journey to healing. There's light after every darkness. Now go ahead, share this story with at least 5 friends who need some hope. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and matter-of-factly, subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to support the channel and flood the comments section with your reactions. You wanna miss what's next. It's the moment to show your support. Thank you for being part of this journey.